Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Matthew, back with the 12th and final episode of round one of the My Favorite LJN tournament revisited. Today we are down to the last, four matches. Because we only had five matches, but oh well, four matches. And again, it's going to conclude round one, and I probably will not work on the beginning of round two. At least not for a couple weeks, maybe in a few weeks. So, because I've got so many episodes in the queue, it's probably going to take me a long while to, get these all posted, every few days as planned. But we are going to dive right in, and the first matchup we are looking at is going to feature Scott Steiner from the one J.Ruggiero 79 on eBay, J.Ruggiero. So the reason I bought the Steiner Brothers is because they mimicked the Hasbro Series 9 Steiner Brother figures. And like so many of his figures, the softness and smoothness of the hair is so unique. Now, unlike figures like Kane or Brutus Beefcake, the Scott Steiner's hair isn't flat. It is a little bit wavy, so it is a little bit more unique than those two figures. This is an absolutely gorgeous piece, and I wanted the tag team for this particular figure. The only downside that I don't like about this particular one is that they use the Ted Arcidi fighting pose, and understandably, because, the Steiner Brothers, they use the, wrestling singlets. Using it like a Ted Arcidi makes a lot of sense, but it also includes the terrible fighting pose, which I am not a fan of at all. Design-wise, aesthetically, it is beautiful, perfect display piece, but again, it's not the type of figure that, if you're a kid wrestling with it, you're going to get a lot of enjoyment from, just like the Ted Arcidi figure. I mean, he does have his hands up, a shade. You can sit there and pretend if you want, but like for me, I like my hands to be up about, I don't have a good example, but if the arms were like right here, that'd be great, Like I said, if all the figures had like that Hulk Hogan type pose, that would be absolutely phenomenal. I get it, you want to have uniqueness and create different type of figures, but I'm not a fan of these type of poses. Fantastic piece, definitely one of my favorites from J.Ruggiero. It's an absolute no doubter. And I wasn't going to get Scott Steiner without also getting the Rick Steiner figure. Like I said, they try to use the pattern from the Series 9 Hasbros, and they're both really gorgeous pieces. What I like about this figure is that they do put like this little head sculpt over his head, which is fantastic. Although the face is a little bit cartoony, but that's okay. Again, another downside, they do use this Iron Sheik fighting pose, and we all know the Iron Sheik figure is one of my top 10 least favorite figures because of that fighting pose, and they kind of like they try to scrub out that little elf shoes from the Iron Sheik figure. It's hardly noticeable. You really gotta look at it really up close and kind of like feel on it to really notice anything. And it just occurred to me as I was talking here, the Vader and the Mountie figure, that's what I am missing. So right after I talk about, give my verdict on the Steiner Brothers, I will do a quick pause, grab those figures, and we'll talk about them next. So, which one do I like better from the Steiner Brothers? Personally, I would have liked these two figures to face someone else in this video so that they could potentially both move forward. Because, to me, it's just kind of unfair to have, one Steiner brother moving forward and the other, basically being left behind. This is a tough call. It really is, because I bought this lot because I wanted the Scott Steiner figure. It looks so phenomenal. I think I'm going to go with Rick Steiner on this one. Not a fan of the pose, of course, but I do believe it's maybe slightly better than Scott Steiner pose. Iron Sheik slightly better than Ted Arcidi is basically how you're looking at it. You know, I'm kind of looking at it. You could kind of do this little, over the shoulder toss, and you could still do like a little DDT or something. So if you're a kid, it's workable. Not the best, but it's decent. Ric Flair will defeat Scott Steiner. So here I will pause and grab the other two figures I mentioned, and be back in just a moment. If this app will get out of my way. Alright, so continuing on with the last of the one J.Rugg 79 figures. The first one we're going to take a look at is the Mountie. So again, another figure using the Nikolai Volkov LJN original. So there are so many things I love about this figure. For starters, the Nikolai Hunchback is kind of removed a little bit. Like it's still there, but it doesn't seem as prevalent as when you look at the actual LJN original. So that's nice. Creating a Mountie, you would never suspect that the Mountie would make you'd be one of those type of figures or characters that they would turn into LJN, but sure enough, here it is. And I love the fact that they take, Hasbro figures and basically create LJNs out of those. That's so amazing. So you're basically combining my love of the originality of the Hasbros, which again I had as a kid, and turning them into one of my new all-time favorite figures, new all-time favorite lines in LJN. So when I started collecting LJNs, I thought at one point maybe that the LJN figures would take over as my all-time favorite toy line. But then, I just have so much history with the Hasbros. Those were the figures I had as a kid. It was really hard for me to basically replace them in the top spot. So I decided to kind of give it a 1A, 1B type of scenario. So I still have Hasbro listed as my all-time favorite figures, but it's not like, 60, 40, 70, 30 type of deal. I might have it like 50.1 towards Hasbro and like 49.9 for the LJNs. So again, they're like right there, just below, at a shade below the Hasbros. And Mountie as LJN, absolutely remarkable. And it's sticking with one of my favorite figures for fighting pose wise. Great selection. The hat is what it is. I mean, it's not a removable accessory, which sometimes I'm okay with that. In fact, sometimes I might even prefer the hat accessory to be molded to the head. You never have to worry about it falling off or getting lost, right? The face, again, like many of these figures, they seem a little bit cartoony because of that, but from a distance, you're not really noticing that cartoony look from a distance. You basically got to be right on top of it to notice anything. And overall, beautiful design. Love the Mountie figure. And I don't know, I'm trying to remember if he made it to round 2 in my first time I did the tournament. I don't remember talking about him past round 1, so I don't think so, but in this one, he does go against a great figure. It's a good figure. I don't want to say great because I don't want to overstep. So, Vader, again, one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. There are very few WCW wrestlers that, I think of, when I think of, that particular brand of wrestling. Sting is always at the top of my list, of course. Vader coming at number 2, maybe Flair at number 3. And, of course, you think of, like, the Steiner Brothers, Nasty Boys, Legion of Doom, before they all migrated to WWF. Guys like Vader, to me, he will always be WCW, even if he was, WWF wrestler as well. So here they used a George Steele, figure, and you could tell based on all the additional, hair on the figure. So a little bit different with this figure compared to like a Rick Steiner, where you can actually feel that they molded a whole new mask over his head. Here, you could tell, feel-wise and by sight, that all they did was paint over the head. Same thing with the chest. They didn't, include anything different. They just put actually, no, I take it back. They did paint. They did create like a new mold or something, because you can actually feel on here that little, it's not like a flat piece. You could actually feel something here, like a little, I don't know, step or something. I don't know, but you can actually feel it around here. That's pretty cool. Maybe I noticed it before. Again, the last time I actually held this figure in my hand is when I made this type of video for J.Ruggiero, doing his last review of the new figures I got in. But the mask itself is a no doubter. I mean, that's just painted. And he has like this 3-finger claw. I never looked it up to see if Vader only had 3 fingers, because I don't think so. I don't remember anything. You'd think something like that would kind of like stand out, and like commentators would be harping on that, but I don't ever remember that. I just think that was kind of like a little slip up on John's part, but overall, beautiful figure. If you're looking at the two, I don't know. This is actually a really good fighting pose. Kind of like a, not quite an SD Jones, but like you can sit there and kind of like do a little choke slam if you want. And the other arm is kind of out like a punch, and this is more like a choke slam. And you can still do a really good body slam. So, not exactly the easiest decision. I love Vader, so I want to see this one move forward. I just can't push him past the Mountie. It's a good figure, and I think if the hand was cleaned up, if the mask was more, like a build on and not necessarily painted on, that would be something. I don't remember Vader being excessively hairy like this, so using a George Steele figure maybe not the best choice. It's a good figure. I mean, I bought it because I wanted it, because I like the figure, so it's just, in my opinion, I like the Mountie better. Definitely, guys, if you have anything that you feel different, let me know in the comments. Definitely. So we've got Rick Steiner and we've got the Mountie moving forward to the next round. So these last 3 matchups are going to feature the last of the Raider Nation figures. So looking at my display, the first 2 figures, first 2 custom LJNs I ever bought from the Raider Nation included the black suit Honky Tonk Man with brownish gold, whatnot, and the extra flavorful Coco Beware figure. I believe this was number 3 that I purchased, maybe number 4. Anyways, when I purchased it, not necessarily important, but it is Doink the Clown. Doink to me was like Yokozuna, trying to find like a really phenomenal Undertaker 1, 2, 3 kid. Doink. Did I say Yokozuna? Yokozuna, Undertaker, Doink, the Rockers, 1, 2, 3 kid, and trying to think who else was it that I really coveted, that I really wanted to see. But when I saw that Kenny Lester and the Raider Nation came out with a LJN of Doink, that was so incredible. Is it the best work of all the Raider Nation figures, of all Kenny Lester figures? I like it because it's Doink. I like obviously the paint scheme. There are obviously things about it that I would have preferred to be different. It all starts with the Harley Race figure. Harley Race in general is an expensive figure, but he also has one of the worst fighting poses. And maybe because he, Doink is a Joker, jokester, maybe that, this whole, sneakiness with the way that his hands are posed, maybe that makes sense. I mean, Kenny Lester is a great, has a great mind for these figures. When you look at, the selection, I think there's a lot of, I mean, I've never spoken to him directly, but I would have to assume that a lot of time was spent thinking about the character and thinking about current LJNs that exist and trying to fight the right figure for that particular character. And, just kind of talk about it, I think that's starting to make sense to me. So some of the things that I don't like, not hate, obviously, because Raider Nation, they're brilliant. All of their figures are just perfection. But the way that it's just kind of like painted directly onto the skin. They obviously had to remove the jacket the Harley race comes with, so they removed that and they completely painted over the whole skin. Overall, there's no paint bleed. You don't really feel the paint. They did it just a phenomenal job. And with the hair, kind of like Bozo or something. It's just so awesome. What's that? No, that's not. At first, I was looking at his nose. I'm like, did his nose fall off? But now that's just a black dot on his nose. Doink. Looks like a Killer Clowns from outer space. I absolutely love the figure. So for this one, he is going against Shinja. Shinja, who in this version is a manager. I believe they took a Mr. Fuji figure for this one. So, Shinja also went by the name Sato, late 80s, or back in the 80s, maybe 70s even, from the Orient Express. So, really good wrestler back in his day. Orient Express, a little bit before my time. I've seen a couple matches based on the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania tapes that I have. But, just another fantastic piece from the Raider Nation. They obviously change up a few things here and there, clearly. With this figure, they don't have, a little handle where they could put a cane in there. So, not 100% to the Mr. Fuji figure, but, obviously that's what the figure that they used. They made a few changes here and there. And again, with so many of the figures, they have kind of like the same type of hairdo, which is, I don't know how they make it like that. So Shinja versus Doink. Nice paint scheme on the face, blending in the facial hair with the face paint that he wore during his managerial duties. I think I would say this is I don't want to say I think it is a better fighting pose if you wanted to use him as a wrestler. But come on, I mean, the paint scheme of a Doink is one of the most remarkable pieces you're going to find in my collection. Great piece, absolutely. I'm so ecstatic when I was able to acquire this from the Raider Nation, but you're not going to top Doink. Doink, to me, among Raider Nation figures, is a top 3, maybe top 4 figure. Absolutely love it. Doink moves on to round 2. So this one right here is one of those battles I don't look forward to. Only because there's not really a clear-cut winner. So, the first one is going to feature that special 1-2-3 Kid figure that I was telling you guys about. So, as I mentioned, they spend a lot of time, I would imagine, focusing on the character and choosing the right figure. I mean, you can't keep using like a King Kong Bundy to make figures, or you can't keep taking the Nikolai Volkov to make figures, or Hillbilly Jim. The fact that they take really expensive figures like Harley Race or like Rick Martel and turn them into these type of figures. The Rick Martel figure from Strikeforce in of itself is anywhere between $50 to $100 by itself. So that, on top of a new paint scheme with the artwork, artistry to create a whole new character that LJN did not come up with. Obviously, 1-2-3 Kid came out years later, almost a decade later. So 85. So I think 1-2-3 Kid first showed up in 93 or something, I would guess. 92 maybe. I don't know. I think 93 sounds about accurate. And just a absolutely perfect piece. This is one of those figures, when I got in the mail, I immediately had to come downstairs and make a video about it because it was just so good. And I wanted to give my credit where credit is due to the Raider Nation. So I had one video where I talked about this individual figure. It wasn't long, maybe 5 minutes or something, 7 minutes. 1-2-3 Kid, taken from Rick Martel. absolute perfection. Reason I'm not excited about this matchup is because he takes on Hercules. This is the third and final Hercules of my collection. Again, you got the Hercules original, which was eliminated by Kamala, I believe, in this round, and the wrestling writer Hercules. I don't remember who he squared off against, but I believe he passed. He moved forward. I mean, I don't see how he couldn't have. So this Hercules, as I mentioned, with so many of these figures, they kind of like have these same head sculpts, same hairdos, and again, when you look at Shinjo, kind of like the same deal. Another figure I was telling you about. So we got Harley Race, we got Rick Martel, and we got Billy Jack Haynes. Billy Jack Haynes is easily a top 15 figure among the LJN line, and they don't use, once again, they don't use inexpensive figures. They take these top-notch figures and they recustomize them, and that just adds so much more value to the figure. So you got Hercules. You've got this awesome chain accessory. It would be nice if they kind of had like a Jake Roberts with the open hand, so where they could like kind of like just hold it, or like a Junkyard Dog. I mean, I never thought about that before, so it's not exactly something that's gonna detract from the overall value of this figure for me. But just kind of looking at it right now, that's just something I just kind of thought about. Beautiful looking figure. Paint job was, again, absolutely remarkable. One of the absolute best figures I own. And the Raider Nation in general has a handful of my top 15 or top 20 favorite figures. And I'm pretty sure at least minimum 2 of them would probably crack my top 10 favorite figures among the entire line. And among the entire collection. Customs or originals, they would have to be on the top 10, so have at least 2 figures there. So I like the Billy Jack Haynes figure better than the Rick Martel figure. That is not to take away anything from the Rick Martel figure, because the Rick Martel is easily one of the top 20 figures. And just as a side note, before I give my verdict, in these videos I'm constantly talking about this figure being a top tier figure, this being a mid tier or bottom tier figure, or this is a low level mid tier figure, etc. I finally went back and made some videos expressing exactly where I'd place these figures. So episode 39, I believe, I did my top 10 favorite LJN originals. Well, I made 3 videos. But you know what happens when I make a ton of videos? They don't save. So one video saved, numbers 11 through 20, but 21 through 30, 31 through 40 didn't save. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. The only reason it's a good thing is because I did not include a Rick Martel in any of those videos. He was kind of like blended in with the Tito Strike Force, and this, like I said, this was a top 20 figure. So now that I've done that 11 through 20 video saved, I'm probably going to have to put him in somewhere in the 21 to 30 range. But those videos I'm not going to post until after this tournament, so maybe I'll start putting them somewhere in between these videos at some point, but highly unlikely. My goal is to wait until after the tournament, so they're probably not going to be posted until December, maybe even January. Back to 2 elite figures. Where do I go with this? Again, this is not an easy decision. And these are type of decisions I don't want to make until, rounds 3 and 4, when it really gets impossible to choose. It sucks. I'm going to have to go with the 1, 2, 3 kid. So I could sit there and say, well, I have one Hercules in competition, so that played a role, but I think at the end of the day, the overall color scheme topped with the fighting pose, I had to go with 123 Kid. There was just no choice. He's just a fantastic piece, and you guys see why I harp on Raider Nation so much. Their figures are just top notch. 123 Kid defeats Hercules of the Raider Nation. Moving on to round 2, and the very final battle, the conclusion of round 1, is going to feature Hakushi. So, formerly Sato of the Orient Express, we saw manager Shinja, and now we have Hakushi the wrestler. So, one of the best things about Hakushi is he is a legitimate Japanese wrestler. So many times you got guys like like Yokozuna, and I think Haku, for example, maybe another one. But you got so many guys who are like from Hawaii, and the WWF, pans them off as these Japanese wrestlers, and they're not. So to find a legitimate Japanese wrestler is incredible. So everything from the accessory, which is so phenomenal. I mean, that is a beautiful looking piece. I mean, this is just another one to add with the Ricky Steamboat figures. I think because of the color scheme, it really meshes well using a Ricky Steamboat. Obviously, not one of my favorite figures, so I'm kind of disappointed that they went with this particular figure. But again, skin tone wise, it definitely makes sense. Paint job, I mean, I don't know if they mimicked this 100% accurately off of the actual wrestlers' tattoos. If they did, I mean, that's top notch. Even if that's just make believe lettering, I mean, it's still incredible. I mean, overall, just plain white throughout for the most part, minus the tattoos, but it works. It works for the figure, and what works about this so much is when you add on the accessory. It just slides right in between his fingers so perfectly to keep it in place. You never got to worry about that thing falling off. Hakushi will take on not one of my favorite poses. We all know this, but the very last man to enter this tournament from WrestleMania 1. Mr. I Pity the Fool himself, Mr. T. This is about as gorgeous of a piece as you're going to find. The whole I Pity the Fool thing, I haven't thought about that in a gazillion years. I just kind of as I was holding him up to the camera, it just kind of popped up in my head. I'm like, wow. Again, using Tito Santana, not my favorite. I did monkey around with this a little bit when I first got him. So I think I got this, if not the same day, within a couple days at least, of the Ram Treasure Zeus figure. So I kind of had like Zeus in there, beating up on Hogan. And again, I'm not sitting down at the table, wrestling or anything. I'm just kind of like, I'm just kind of standing there, just kind of like, just goofing off a little bit. It had Zeus wailing on the Rip'em Hulk Hogan. And I got Mr. T jumping in there, kind of like whipping on Zeus to, have his back and whatnot. Such a beautiful figure. Again, the way that they colored the skin tone of the Tito Santana to turn it into a Mr. T, you would never know the difference. You would never know that this wasn't the original skin color of the figure. That's how incredible their work is. And the way that their stuff just kind of like shines. I don't know if it's the glue or the paint or if they put lacquer or something else. I'm not a customizer. I don't know how these guys do these things, but it's just so remarkable. And everything from the design of the pants all the way to the boots. Absolutely amazing. And one of my favorite things I haven't been showing, the KL for Kenny Lester. Normally you would think, okay, I want a crisp figure. I don't want writing on it. In this case, I'm thinking I'm okay with that because at least oh hey, KL, I know who that is. Kenny Lester, an amazing talent from the Raider Nation. And shoot. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I could say about this. I have WrestleMania 1. I need to go back and watch. I need to watch his matches with Hulk Hogan. Beautiful piece. Does he defeat Hakushi? I don't know if I prefer a Steamboat pose more than a Tio Santana pose. I mean, neither figure could do a good body slam, and this, like I said, like Steamboat, all you got is a head, ground by the top of the head because of the little claw that he has. At least this, you're throwing punches and DDTs or something. Oh, you can do a DDT with this. I don't want it to be so simple, but I'm going to go with Mr. T. So Mr. T defeats Hakushi, and with that victory, we officially complete round 1 of the My Favorite LJN tournament. Now, I haven't looked at the paper. I've been going back and watching my videos and taking down the winners and everything. If I had to guess, I would say we have roughly 80 winners from round 1. So round 2, you're looking at 40 battles. 40 battles, 40 winners. And it may not be even as I think it is, but just for an estimation, round 2 will have 40 winners. Round 3, 20 matchups, 20 winners. Round 4, 10 winners. And then once you get to round 5, see that can't work out that way though. And I say it doesn't work out that way because the semifinals for my last tournament was episode 6, and then or round 6, and then the finals, the last 2 was episodes or round 7, and I put round 6 and 7 in one video. I mean, I had like 130 figures. Now I've got over 200, so I don't see how it's gonna end up being roughly the same amount of same amount. So something's got to change somewhere, and I'm not really looking at it the right way. But again, we're looking at multiple rounds. It's not going to be 3 or 4 round type of deal. I think it's going to go in excess of 5, regardless. So yeah. That will take care of round 1. And again, we are still looking at the 12th of October, Wednesday. This is the second video I made today, and this will probably be the last video I make for a month or so. I don't know if I'll come back down here and make other videos in the meantime, but for the short term, at least I've completed the first round. And if anything comes up, I will let you guys know. By all means, reach out anytime, leave comments. I'd love to hear from you guys, and let me know what you think. And I will see you all soon. Goodbye for now.